ever get that feeling? Like you remember something so clearly,
Yeah.
but everyone else is telling a different story. Like,
Yeah.
is it me? Is my memory off?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Well, today we're diving deep, deep into this world of false memories.
Okay.
It can get a little unsettling,
Right.
but stick with us. We got some fascinating stuff lined up, and we're looking at this from a few different angles. We're going to be pulling from George Orwell's 1984.
Okay.
We've got some cutting-edge scientific research on memory manipulation.
Right.
And get this, even some ancient Gnostic texts.
Wow, an interesting combination. I'm intrigued.
Like, what could these possibly have in common?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're here to find out.
I'm excited.
So let's kick things off with 1984.
Okay.
Orwell really paints this chilling picture of a totalitarian state
Uh-huh.
where they're controlling people by literally rewriting history.
Oh, yeah. The memory holes.
Right, the memory holes. Like, poof, inconvenient facts just disappear.
Gone. Just like that.
And the way they justify it is even more disturbing. It's like the past was erased, the eraser was forgotten, the lie became truth.
I mean, that's scary stuff.
Yeah, it's like it really makes you think about how easily our perception of reality can be manipulated.
Right. And it's not just in dystopian fiction, you know.
Oh,
I mean, this is happening in
yeah.
the real world, too.
So let's bring in some real-world evidence.
Sure.
And this is where memory researcher Julia Shaw comes in. She's done some groundbreaking work.
I've heard of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get this. She's actually implanted false memories into people's minds.
Wait, what? How is that even possible?
I know, right? It sounds crazy. But she's done it
Wow.
through this process of suggestion, imagination, and reinforcement.
So, like, leading them to believe something happened that didn't.
Exactly. And people believe these memories, like
Yeah.
fully embrace them.
That's wild.
Right. I mean, think about eyewitness testimony.
Yeah.
Or even just like family arguments about what happened in the past.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. It really makes you question everything.
Totally. Like,
Right.
what can we actually trust?
It's almost like what we remember may not always be, you know?
What actually happened?
Exactly.
So far we've got, Orwell's Mystery of Truth. We've got Julia Shaw's research.
Mhm.
It seems like it's all about external forces messing with our memories.
Right.
But what about, like, self-deception? Can we actually manipulate our own memory?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah. It's called the memory illusion. Our brains, they love to fill in gaps, create narratives, even if they don't line up with reality.
So we can basically convince ourselves of something that never even happened.
Pretty much, yeah. Our memories, they aren't static, you know? It's not like a recording. They change every time we access them.
Yeah.
And that's where the errors and the distortions come in.
Wow. Okay, my mind is officially blown. But we've got Orwell. We've got science.
Yeah.
Where do the ancient Gnostics come into all of this? They seem a little,
Out of place.
a little out there, but trust me, it's going to get interesting. So the Gnostics, they believed in these things called archons.
Okay.
And they thought these archons were basically manipulating our perceptions.
Like controlling what we see and hear.
And even more, like they were feeding off our fear.
So like these malevolent entities, are we talking demons here?
Not exactly demons, more like cosmic forces.
I see.
Trapping our consciousness,
Yeah.
distorting our memories.
Wow. Okay, so like the ultimate gaslighters.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
And you're saying this connects to memory manipulation?
Well, think about it. The Gnostics believed these archons had the power to mess with our memories, to keep us in the dark. And even though we might not believe in archons literally,
Right.
it makes you wonder about those forces, both outside and inside us.
Yeah.
That can really influence what we remember.
That's fascinating. I'm really starting to see how this all fits together.
I told you it would get interesting.
You weren't kidding.
We've gone from 1984 to implanted memories to ancient mystical entities.
It's a wild ride for sure.
This deep dive is living up to its name.
Absolutely. It really makes you think about, the whole nature of reality, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But, going back to 1984 for a sec,
Okay.
there's this really chilling part that always sticks with me.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
It's where O'Brien he's torturing Winston,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And he says, sometimes they're 5, sometimes they're 3, sometimes they're all of them at once.
Ugh. Gives me chills just thinking about it. That whole concept of doublethink,
Yeah.
holding two completely contradictory beliefs at the same time.
It's like, how is that even possible? Are you suggesting we're all capable of doublethink? Like, could I convince myself that 2 plus 2 equals 5?
Well, maybe not that extreme, but think about it. Don't we all rationalize our own bad behavior sometimes, or, cling to beliefs even when there's evidence that contradicts them?
Okay, yeah, I guess I see your point.
It's like we all have this tendency to protect our egos, to maintain our worldview, even if it means distorting reality a little bit.
It's like we've all got our own little ministry of truth in our heads.
Exactly. Editing and revising our personal histories to fit our preferred narratives. And, the Gnostics were really onto something with this whole idea of the archons.
Right, those entities that manipulate our perceptions.
Yeah, they believed these archons could exploit our insecurities, our fears, twist things around to keep us trapped in ignorance.
Wow. So even thousands of years ago, people were like grappling with this idea that our own minds can be our worst enemies.
Absolutely. It's a timeless human struggle, this tension between, what we want to believe and what's actually true.
It's really fascinating how these seemingly different sources, or the scientific research, the Gnostics, they all converge on this idea of the vulnerability of human perception.
It's a common thread, this recognition that we're not always as rational and objective as we think we are.
So where does that leave us? I mean, if our memories are so easily distorted, if truth is so slippery, can we ever really trust our own perceptions?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But I think awareness is key. The more we understand how our minds work, the better equipped we are to navigate this complex landscape of perception and memory.
So like a healthy dose of skepticism is in order.
Exactly. Not just towards external sources of information, but towards our own internal narratives as well.
So question everything, even our own memories.
Well, not necessarily reject everything outright, but be willing to, examine things more closely, look for corroborating evidence, be open to different interpretations. It's like becoming an archaeologist of our own minds, right?
I love that analogy.
Carefully excavating the layers of memory, examining each artifact for authenticity and meaning.
Yeah, because what we remember isn't always the whole story.
Right, and sometimes the most important discoveries are the ones that challenge our preconceived notions.
This whole deep dive is really shifting my perspective. Like, truth isn't just this fixed, absolute thing. It's more of a process, a journey of constant discovery and reevaluation.
Absolutely, and that journey requires, courage and intellectual honesty, being willing to confront our own biases, the possibility of self-deception.
Yeah, it's definitely a tightrope walk, trying to find that balance between reality and illusion.
Yeah.
But what about our identities? If our memories are so fluid, so malleable, what does that say about who we are?
That's where things get really interesting. Because if our memories aren't these fixed, reliable records, then how do we construct a stable sense of self? It's a question that's been debated for centuries.
It makes you wonder if we're all just, unreliable narrators of our own lives.
It's like, who are we really, right? If our memories are constantly shifting and changing, do we have like a core identity at all?
It's almost like we're constantly reinventing ourselves.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, our memories are so integral to who we are. But if they're not like these objective truths, then what does that say about our sense of self?
And what about truth in general?
Yeah.
If our memories are so unreliable,
Right.
Can we ever really know what's actually true?
It's a huge question. And, the Gnostics, they really wrestled with this. They believed that the material world, like the world we experience through our senses, it's all just an illusion.
Whoa, okay. So, like, the Matrix.
Kinda, yeah. They thought that true knowledge, real truth, you could only find it through, like, a direct spiritual experience.
So, beyond our memories, beyond our senses, that's pretty out there.
Yeah, it's a radical idea, but it speaks to like the limitations of just relying on what we remember or what we perceive,
right?
To understand reality, because for them, all of that could be manipulated, like by these archons we talked about,
right,
but also by like our own desires or biases.
It's like we're getting hit from all sides.
It's a lot to take in, for sure. I mean, we've gone from Orwell's dystopian vision of, the government controlling the narrative.
Yeah, the Ministry of Truth.
Right, to actual scientific evidence that memories can be implanted.
And then we've got the ancient Gnostics talking about these entities that mess with our perceptions.
It all points to the same thing, really. That truth is, it's not this solid, unchanging thing.
Yeah.
It's constantly being shaped, by forces that are often beyond our control.
So where does that leave us? Like, if our memories can't be trusted, if truth is so hard to pin down.
Right. Well, it doesn't mean we should just give up, right?
No, of course not.
I mean, the search for truth, it's what makes us human, you know? It's what drives us to explore, to question, to try to make sense of the world.
So what can we do? How do we even begin to navigate this crazy landscape of memory and perception?
I think it starts with a healthy dose of skepticism, not just towards like the news or what other people tell us, but towards our own memories too.
So question everything.
Question everything. Be willing to dig a little deeper, you know? Look for different perspective and don't be afraid to admit when you're wrong.
That's hard.
It is, yeah. But it's so important.
Yeah, because like we've been talking about, our memories, they're not these perfect recordings of the past.
And they're more like stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes those stories, they change over time.
Right.
Or we might even get some of the details wrong.
So it's not about like rejecting our memories completely.
Yeah.
It's about like approaching them with a critical eye.
Exactly. Recognizing that they might not always be, you know, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yeah. This whole deep dive has been a wild ride. We've covered so much ground.
Yeah. Wow.
From dystopian fiction to cutting-edge science to ancient mysticism.
It's been quite a journey.
It really makes you think, you know. And for our listeners who want to learn more, where should they go?
Well, for anyone who wants to dive deeper into the science of memory, Julia Shaw's book, The Memory Illusion, that's a great place to start.
Okay. The Memory Illusion.
Yeah. And of course, you can't go wrong with revisiting 1984.
Classic.
It's as relevant today as it was when it was written, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think after this deep dive, a lot of people are going to be looking at their own memories, at the world around them in a whole new light. So big thanks to you for joining us on this mind-bending exploration of false memories.
It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy these conversations.
Me too. And to our listeners, keep questioning, keep exploring.
Yeah.
And remember, don't believe everything you think.